bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome to Millennium TV 24 Global News Network. My name is Todd David Goldfinger, and I'm your newsman. Here's the news. Facing disquiet at home and danger abroad, President Joe Biden will deliver his first State of the Union address at a precipitous moment for the nation, aiming to navigate the country out of the pandemic, reboot his stalled domestic agenda, and confront Russia's aggression. The speech Tuesday night had initially been conceived by the White House as an opportunity to highlight the improving coronavirus outlook and rebrand Biden's domestic policy priorities as a way to lower costs for families grappling with soaring inflation. But it has taken on new significance with last week's Russian invasion of Ukraine and nuclear saber rattling by Vladimir Putin. Biden, in his remarks, planned to highlight the bravery of Ukrainian defenders and the resolve of the newly reinvigorated Western alliance that has worked to rearm the Ukrainian military and impose sanctions on Russia to cripple its economy. Next news. A man shot and killed his 3 daughters, their chaperone, and himself during a supervised visit with the girls Monday at a church in Sacramento, California, authorities said. Deputies responding to reports of gunfire around 5 p.m. found 5 people dead, including the shooter, at the church in the Arden Arcade neighborhood, said Sergeant Rod Grassman with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. The victims included 3 girls, ages 9, 10, and 13, Grassman said. The shooter was estranged from his daughter's mother, who had a restraining order against him, Sheriff Scott Jones said. Investigators believe the shooting happened during a supervised visit with the children and that the 4th victim was their chaperone, Jones said. The shooter's name wasn't immediately released, but officials said he was 39 years old. An employee of the church in Sacramento heard of the gunshots and called 911, Gressman said. Next news. Voters in Texas will usher in the midterm campaign season with primaries that will test just how far to the right the Republican Party will shift in a state where many in the GOP have already tightened their embrace of former President Donald Trump. Incumbent Republican Governor Greg Abbott appears well positioned to secure his party's nomination for another term after Tuesday's voting, starting the campaign with more than $50 million. He has built hard-line positions on guns, immigration, and abortion. The GOP primary for Attorney General may be more competitive, as incumbent Ken Paxton seeks a third term in office. He's facing several challengers, including Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush and U.S. Representative Louis Gohmert, who are vowing to restore order to the office. Paxton led a failed lawsuit to overturn the 2020 election and has for years faced securities fraud charges and an FBI investigation into corruption allegations. He has broadly denied any wrongdoing. Next news. The Wisconsin Supreme Court was set Tuesday to consider whether a woman can argue that she legally killed a man under a state law that absolves sex trafficking victims of their crimes. Prosecutors allege Crystal Kaiser shot Randall Volar in the head at his Kenosha home, burned his house down, and stole his BMW in 2018. Kaiser was 17 at the time. She contends she met Volar on a sex trafficking website, and he went on to sexually assault her and traffic her through the website to others. She told detectives she shot Volar after he tried to touch her, according to a criminal complaint. Prosecutors maintain Kaiser planned to kill Volar. She's awaiting trial on a raft of charges, including arson, car theft, and first-degree intentional homicide. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium TV 24 Global News Update. Here's the continuation of today's news. Thank you. President Joe Biden on Monday denied executive privilege claims made by former Trump administration officials Peter Navarro and Michael Flynn in connection to the congressional probe into the attack on the U.S. Capitol. In letters penned by White House Deputy Counsel Jonathan Sue, the Biden administration rejected the shield of executive privilege supported by Navarro and Flynn in response to recent subpoenas by the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th, 2021 attack. President Biden has determined that an assertion of executive privilege is not in the national interest and therefore is not justified with respect to particular subjects within the purview of the Select Committee, Sue wrote in the letters sent to Navarro and to Flynn's lawyer. Next news. The House voted Monday to award the only all-female black unit to serve in Europe during World War II with the Congressional Gold Medal. The 422-0 vote follows a long-running campaign to recognize the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion. The Senate passed the legislation last year. The unit, known in short as the 6888, was tasked with sorting and routing mail for millions of American service members and civilians. Only a half dozen of the more than 850 members are still alive. It's overwhelming, said Major Fanny Griffin McClendon, who is 101 years old and lives in Arizona, said when told of the vote. It's something I never seen, something I never even thought about. I don't know if I can stand this. End quotes. The 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion was credited with solving a growing mail crisis during its stint in England, and upon their return, serving as a role model to generations of black women who joined the military. Next news. In war, winning quick control of airspace is crucial. Russia's failure to do so in Ukraine, despite its vast military strength, has been a surprise and may help explain how Ukraine has so far prevented a rout. The standoff in the sky is among the Russian battle shortcomings, including logistical breakdowns that have thrown Moscow off stride and its invasion. Typically, an invading force would seek at the outset to destroy or at least paralyze the target country's air and missile defenses, because dominance of the skies allows ground forces to operate more effectively and with fewer losses. U.S. military officials had assumed that Russia would use its electronic warfare and cyber capabilities to blind and try to paralyze Ukraine's air defenses and military communications. Next news. Russian strikes pounded the central square in Ukraine's second largest city and other civilian sites Tuesday in what the country's president condemned as a blatant campaign of terror by Moscow. Nobody will forgive. Nobody will forget, vowed President Volodymyr Zelensky. At the same time, a 40-mile convoy of hundreds of Russian tanks and other vehicles advanced on the capital, Kiev, in what the West feared was a bid to topple Ukraine's government and install a Kremlin-friendly regime. Russian President Vladimir Putin's forces pressed their attack on other towns and cities across the country, including at or near the strategic ports of Odessa and Mariupol in the south. Day 6 of the biggest ground war in Europe since World War II found Russia increasingly isolated, beset by tough sanctions that have thrown its economy into disarray and left the country practically friendless. Apart from a few nations like China and Belarus. We'll take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium TV 24 Global News Update. The UN's refugees chief is warning that many more vulnerable people will begin fleeing their homes in Ukraine if Russia's military offensive continues and further urban areas are hit. Filippo Grandi told reporters in Geneva on Tuesday that his agency has so far recorded 677,000 people fleeing from Ukraine to neighboring countries, with about half of those currently in Poland. Queues along the border are now tens of kilometers, miles long, and some people are having to wait days to cross. It is likely that if the military offensive continues and urban centers are hit, one after the other, that we will see more and more people with less resources, with less connections, more vulnerable in every respect, he said. Grandy criticized instances where non-Ukrainians fleeing the country had reportedly suffered discrimination, but said this did not appear to be the result of government policies. Next news. Russia's war on Ukraine is now in its sixth day, with a miles-long convoy of Russian tanks and armored vehicles inching closer to the Ukrainian capital and fighting intensifying on the ground. Russia on Tuesday stepped up shelling of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, pounding civilian targets there. Casualties mounted, and reports emerged that more than 70 Ukrainian soldiers were killed after Russian artillery recently hit a military base in Okterka, a city between Kharkiv and Kiev, the capital. Here's a look at things to know about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian authorities say the center of Kharkiv was hit Tuesday by renewed Russian shelling that struck the administration building along with residential buildings. An emergency official said the bodies of at least 6 people had been pulled from the ruins, and at least 20 other people were injured. Next news. From a tent in the rebel-held pocket of Syria, Ahmad Rakan has closely followed the news of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. More than 2 years ago, a Russian airstrike destroyed his house in a nearby village during a months-long Syrian government offensive backed by Moscow's firepower that drove him and tens of thousands of others from their homes. We, more than anyone else, feel their pain, he said, of Ukrainian civilians currently under Russian bombardment. For the past 7 years, Syrians, like Rakan, have experienced firsthand Russia's military might as it struck opposition strongholds, brokering mass surrender deals and deployed military police across their country, practically rendering it a Russian protectorate on the Mediterranean. Next news. Associated Press journalists around Ukraine and beyond are documenting military activity during Russia's invasion. With disinformation rife and social media amplifying military claims and counterclaims, determining exactly what is happening is very difficult. Here's a look at what could be confirmed Monday as Russia's military assault on Ukraine was in its 5th day. Explosions and gunfire appeared to subside overnight around Kiev, the capital, before Ukrainian and Russian delegations met Monday on Ukraine's border with Belarus. As the talks wrapped up, several blasts could be heard in Kiev. Russian forces shelled Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv. Video showed residential areas being shelled, with apartment buildings shaken by repeated, powerful blasts. Flashes of fire and gray plumes of smoke could be seen. We're going to take a short break from the daily English global news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium TV 24 Global News Update. Here's a continuation of the news. Ambassadors from dozens of countries on Monday backed a proposal demanding that Russia halt its attack on Ukraine. As the UN General Assembly held a rare emergency session during a day of frenzied and sometimes fractious diplomacy surrounding a 5-day-old war. In quotes. If Ukraine does not survive, international peace will not survive. Ukrainian Ambassador Sergei Kislitsa said at the Assembly's first emergency meeting since 1997. Have no illusions. If Ukraine does not survive, we cannot be surprised if democracy fails next. End quote. Reflecting escalating global alarm. Both of the UN's major bodies, the 193 Nation Assembly, and the smaller, more powerful Security Council, took the unusual step of holding simultaneously hastily scheduled meetings on the war. In Geneva, the UN Human Rights Council voted to hold its own urgent session. Tension permeated the diplomatic discourse. The Security Council meeting opened with the news that the United States was kicking out 12 Russian UN diplomats whom Washington accused of spying. Next news. A Russian military convoy threatening Kiev is far bigger than initially thought. With satellite images from Monday showing it occupied much of a 40-mile, 64-kilometer stretch of road north of the Ukrainian capital. Explosions and gunfire were heard in embattled cities in eastern Ukraine. as Russia's invasion met unexpectedly stiff resistance. The Russian military assault on Ukraine was in its fifth day Monday. A Ukrainian delegation held talks with Russian officials at the border with Belarus, though they ended with no agreements except to keep talking. French President Emmanuel Macron spoke by phone with Putin, urging him to halt the offensive. Meanwhile, Western sanctions triggered by the invasion sent the Russian ruble plummeting. The Russian ruble, might as well be called ruble, plummeting, leading ordinary Russians to line up at banks and ATM machines. And Russian teams were suspended from all international soccer matches, including qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup, pushing the country towards sports pariah status. Thank you. Next news. School children in California, Oregon, and Washington will no longer be required to wear masks as part of new indoor mask policies. The Democratic governors of all three states announced jointly on Monday. In quotes, with declining case rates and hospitalizations across the West, California, Oregon, and Washington are moving together to update their masking guidance, end quote. The governor said in a statement, there are more than 7.5 million school-age children across the three states, which have had some of the strictest coronavirus safety measures during the pandemic. The new guidance will make face coverings strongly recommended rather than a requirement at most indoor places in California starting Tuesday and at schools on March 12th, regardless of vaccination status. In Washington and Oregon, all of the requirements will lift on March 12th. In all three states, the decision of whether to follow the state guidance will now rest with the school districts. Next news. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said he tested positive for COVID-19 on Tuesday, but will continue his official duties while isolating. In quotes, I am experiencing flu-like symptoms and will be recovering over the next week, end quote, Morrison said in a statement. He said he would continue working as Prime Minister, focusing on the government's response to the Ukraine war and devastating floods on Australia's east coast. He is isolating in his official Sydney residence. Morrison held a news conference with Defense Minister Peter Dutton earlier Tuesday, in which the government promised $50 million in missiles, ammunition, and other military hardware for Ukraine. Dutton became the first governing party lawmaker to be infected with COVID-19 during a Washington, D.C. visit in March 2020. He will be required to isolate for a week. This has been the daily global news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please log in to get the latest news on all our social networking sites: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Millennium News 24. Look for it. Also, our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers, now on both network broadcasting, Android and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV. Also, all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and latest news and views. Our Millennium TV news platform, our apps, Millennium TV USA Android, Millennium News Google, www.millenniumnews24.com. Please stay with Millennium News 24/7. Thank you. My name is Todd David Goldfinger. Have a pleasant tomorrow and stay safe. Thank you.